I'm sorry that I got you into this. Midoriya apologized while he laid his head in the palm of his hand. You thought it wasn't a problem, but having sat in the hallway closet for a few hours now, legs cramped up against each other, wasn't exactly how you wanted to spend your evening. You gazed lazily at the green-haired boy as fatigue started to wash over you, shaking your head in reply. You don't need to apologize, you answered, bending your knees close to your chest. Truly, it's better in here than it is out there at the moment. Well, yeah, but it's gotten quiet, hasn't it? You contemplated his question. True, it has gotten quiet, but many knew very well that Bakugo did not give up too easily. It was an unfortunate event that occurred during training practice that had caught the wrath of the hothead against the boy who now sat across you in a cramped closet. You didn't know the specifics, having just focused on your training regime and your quirk not too far away, when Midoriya crashed into you during what looked to be a tiff between the boys. In a messy heap, you accidentally let loose your quirk towards Bakugo, confused, shocked, and mortified. Midoriya ended up pulling you with him out of the training area, still in your hero outfits before Bakugo took a chance to blast the both of you. In a panic, Midoriya opened the closest door he could find to take shelter in hopes that Bakugo would cool off during the rampage, only to realize the door locked itself from the outside. Maybe Kachan cooled off, Midoriya queried, breaking your trail of thought from the events of today. He can get frustrated enough to not hold on to his anger for long. I don't think that solves this problem, though. You pointed at the closet doors, the light from the hall streaming in and reflecting against any movement that passed through its beams. It had already been discussed between the two of you on how to approach the locked doors without causing any damage to them. Midoriya was fervent on keeping it that way, knowing Ida may have a word to say about it in the near future. Neither of you knew how to pick a lock, despite it being on the other side, and there were no tools to even attempt unhinging the doors. Midoriya had thought of every possibility, sans calling out in fear that Bakugo would hear either of you. Still, sitting in the closet with your hero outfits also meant any form of communication had been cut off. Your phones were in the locker rooms along with your school uniforms, and seeing that it felt like hours have passed meant that the school day was almost officially over. For a Friday evening, it was eventful. Midoriya and yourself had made some great conversation, brainstorming on what to do next, along with some bouts of laughter every now and then. It felt strange to be seating next to one of the top contenders of UA. You sat a fair distance away from Midoriya in class, and most times when training practice occurred, you'd be off focusing on your own regime and fine-tuning your skills, every once in a while chatting with other classmates close by during some breaks. You looked around the closet, finding a mass of coats floating above you as they hung from their racks. The light that streamed through the closet was beginning to dim, which signaled the evening sun about to lower for the day. Friday was almost over. Why the dorms? You asked, catching Midoriya's attention away from the closet doors. It looked as if you broke his own trail of thought, his mind racing on solutions to a problem he was trying to solve. Why run all this way to our dorms? It was the furthest point away from the training grounds, he reasoned whilst he rubbed the back of his neck. Distance may help Kachan cool off, but I didn't count on the closet doors locking themselves. They usually need someone to manually lock it from the outside. So you planned on using the closet as your bunker? Yeah. You could see his head tilt towards the doors again in the darkness, and through the dark you saw a hint of his gaze looking distant. But I didn't count on dragging you with me. That was an accident. There was something in his eyes that you could see. Sadness, regret, guilt. You couldn't define it, but a smile crept on your lips as you relaxed your legs to stretch out again, grazing his in the closet. You caught him slightly off guard when you did, and placed your hand on one of his bent knees. Midoriya, it's okay, you reassured. I let loose my quirk on Bakugo through pure shock. So, in a way, I need to be here, and I'm glad you did drag me along. That brought a smile on Midoriya's face, the beam of light from the cracks of the doors accentuating his features even further. Besides, you continued, that's what I like about you. A silence fell in the space between. Midoriya's smile turned into a flustered mess, whilst your thoughts suddenly realized what words had spilled out of your mouth. I mean as a hero, you quickly quipped, raising your hands in front of your face to hide the blush that slowly crept across your cheeks. You're considerate of those around you. Your motivation to be the best shows in everything you do, and you always, you always, You trailed off before your hands covered your face, trying your best to hide your embarrassment in the dark. You felt the heat in your cheeks almost burning through your hands. It wasn't long until you felt a hand upon your own knee as you peeked through your fingers. Midoriya's hand laid there, his own gaze staring at it and his lips forming a thin line. Removing your hands from your flustered cheeks, you gazed at Midoriya, who seemed to sit there frozen, unmoving, yet his grip on your knee was gentle. You slowly laid your hand atop his, causing the green-haired boy to lift his gaze to yours in the dark. With your eyes locked onto his, you laughed nervously. Well, you're always looking out for others before yourself, you finished, finally finding the words. And I worry about you. Midoriya's eyes looked to you confused, his interest slightly piqued from your choice of words. Noticing the momentary silence, you continued to fill the air with explanation that Midoriya was too kind, too nice, too good of a person for everything in the world. And even though his idol All Might was exactly the same, there was something so pure about Midoriya that you couldn't hold a candle to. Midoriya's smile returned before he shifted himself in place, his body now flush against yours. You don't need to worry about me, he explained. If I'm able to do one good thing, it's keeping everyone safe and out of harm's way, no matter what the strife is. I've been wanting to be that person all my life, and I'll keep striving to be that person, to be the best version of me that I can be. You couldn't help but smile at him and his energy. Despite his timidness at times, he was a true leader deep down, going on to many great things. And, well, he continued, I want to be the best version I can be for you. That took you aback, while the both of you sat close to each other in the closet. Midoriya rubbed the back of his neck nervously while he was still turned towards you, shaking, but unwavering. He wasn't hiding it well, but you felt the same nervous energy course through you too. Midoriya lowered his head onto yours. His forehead pressed against yours, and his face, though nervous, was filled with content. I mean, you're amazing, he continued, his voice shaky. I purposefully trained close to you so one day we could work together, and no matter what strengths we have, I can and will always protect you. That's why I'm sorry about today. I feel selfish. Just as confused as Midoriya was, you now felt the same with his choice of words. Still allowing his forehead against yours, you looked into his downcast eyes, searching. Selfish? Why? Midoriya's eyes gazed up at yours, the green in them glinting in the evening light. I could have distracted Kachan to focus on me. I could have led him away and not drag you along, but I did because... He stopped and looked away, but she felt his forehead press deeper onto yours as if letting you go would be the last thing he wanted. I wanted to know that you were safe here with me, that I can protect you, and prove that I can be myself with you. You watched as his eyes shut, not once looking at you, as if he were ashamed of his decisions, of admitting to his feelings and his needs. Surprise was an understatement. The nervous and timid student in Class 1A just ultimately confessed to you in the best way he could. But you couldn't deny his honesty, and his somewhat guilt over it. A smile crept on your lips once more as you felt the heat of his breath against your skin. You gently pressed your forehead against his, reciprocating his move. Please, you murmured, catching his gaze off guard. You're ready enough. You felt him lean his body into yours after hearing those words. Smiles were shared between the both of you, and the world outside no longer existed in this moment. No more words were shared when you felt his gloved hand cup your cheek, and avoiding all manner of hero accessories upon your bodies, leaned in with a hesitant and light kiss on yours. Both of you held the kiss for a while as you allowed yourself to melt into his hands, and even though the distant school chime rung through the campus, the two of you were still in this moment. It wasn't long until you heard the mass footfalls of your fellow classmates enter into the dorms. You were about to call out, only to have your mouth cupped by Midoriya. The voices of your classmates mingled together outside the closet doors, but you also heard Bakugo's gruff voice, complaining about training and the things he would do if he found Midoriya. As the voices faded away, Midoriya slowly released his hand from you and whispered apologetically into your ear. Wow, you murmured. Bakugo really has it in for you today. Midoriya sighed exasperatedly. I was counting on him to cool off a little more than that. Do you think it's safe to knock and see if anyone else is around? I don't hear him anymore. Midoriya turned to the door in contemplation before he agreed to your suggestion. The both of you knocked on the closet doors for a few minutes, in hopes that someone would hear in the hallway. As you did, you turned to the green-haired boy who was also leaning his ear against the doorframe, listening out for anyone outside. You smiled, seeing the concentration on his face, but also his determination and fervor. He glanced at you in the dark and smiled his beaming grin, sharing another moment with you alone. Suddenly, the sound of the lock outside clicked, causing the doors to swing open and both Midoriya and yourself falling out of the closet together. The both of you crashed against the hallway floor, looking up to find Kirishima looking down with a toothy grin. I knew I heard something, he said with a smirk. Don't worry, Bakugo's in his room. I just came back to check up on the two of you. Standing on your feet with the help of Midoriya, you thanked Kirishima for releasing the two of you from the closet. He waved his hands nonchalantly, musing about how it seemed everyone found the closet to be the best hiding spot in the whole campus, and left the two of you to return to his room upstairs. You and Midoriya, still in hero outfits, laughed with bright smiles, only to realize you couldn't return to the school building to retrieve your personal belongings from the locker rooms, as they may have locked everything up for the day. You both agreed to speak with Aizawa tomorrow, Saturday morning, of the mishap and take into account any consequences that will follow afterwards. But as the both of you walked to the elevator, Midoriya slipped his hand into yours, clutching it tightly. You reciprocated his touch, squeezing his palm and reassuring that no matter what happened, the moments would never fade.